Hello everyone, in this video I'll be going through my Pac-12 off-season tier list for this upcoming college basketball season, 2020-2021, and we'll go through each team in the Pac-12 and I give my sort of thoughts on where they'll land and which tier they'll go into. So just some general thoughts real quick. The Pac-12 is going to 20 games this upcoming season. I think that'll help boost them a little bit. There's obviously more opportunities against good teams if you're at 20 games. You've seen that with the Big Ten the last 2 years, with them at 20 games and them being the best or the second best conference these past 2 seasons. And also I really think there's a lot of parity, perhaps outside the top tier. Kind of like this, where this year some of the top tier teams were vulnerable going on the road to some of the bad teams in this league this past season. Saw that last year, Oregon, who obviously won the conference, lost to Washington State. I think maybe some of the other teams lost to Cal. So, I think this conference will improve. They'll also be much improved from that disastrous 2019 season that they had, when they only got 2 at-large teams in, and then 3 teams as a whole. Well, anyway, let's begin. We're going to start off with California, Berkeley. They were obviously abysmal if you go back 2 seasons ago under Viking Jones. I think they had seasons where they're sub 200 in Ken Pom. Obviously Mark Fox is going to enter his second year as a head coach at Cal. He was previously at Georgia. So Cal does return their leading player Matt Bradley with 17.5 points per game. Again, this is from a Cal team who was second to last, I want to say, or third to last. I think they're the 10th seed in the Pac-12 tournament, if I remember correctly. But they also returned their leading rebounder and Grant Anticevic. Please excuse my pronunciation there. Plus, they bring in a couple of grad transfers, one from the Ivy League, and they also bring back some of the freshman role guys from this past season that will be sophomores this year. But they also lose their second and third leading scorers, who were seniors from last season's team. So obviously with their best player returning and their best rebounder returning, plus the 2 new grad transfer guys, could maybe see some improvement from this Cal team. But at this point, I think some of the teams around them in the Pac-12 are improving more. So I think Cal will land in the F tier. Alright, next up is Oregon, who is the defending champions of this conference. Oregon obviously loses Peyton Pritchard, who is a Player of the Year candidate. I believe the Player of the Year in the Pac-12. Honestly, if you lose a talent like him, I think that you're going to drop off just a little bit. But they do also lose Shakir Houston as well, who's a key guy for them. But they do return 3 out of their 6 top scorers, including Will Richardson, and finally Dante and Chris Duarte. Plus, they've got a couple of transfers that will be eligible for this upcoming season. Amari Hardy from UNLV, and also Eugene Omarui from Rutgers, who sat out this past season. So overall, I think this team's probably borderline top 25 good. I had them as a 17 in my bracket, and I think they'll land at A tier. Not quite the top contender, I don't think, but I think they'll land in A. So up next is the Utah Utes, a very young team last year. They were still kind of somewhat competitive. That was really a big theme on the bottom tier teams this past season. Still somewhat competitive and able to knock off some teams at home. And then they also beat Kentucky and Las Vegas, if you remember that. So I think this Utah team will improve a little bit. They've got obviously a lot of their young guys back. Timmy Allen, Rylan Jones back, as well as Brandon Carlson and Alfonso Plummer. Now they do lose Booth Gotch, who transferred to Minnesota. I believe he was the second leading scorer. Plus they're bringing some more talented pieces to complement their talented roster already, including Ian Martinez, who's a 4-star. So I think you see some growth out of this team. I think Larry Kristoyak and Timmy Allen, I think they'll land in C tier, and I think they could contend for an NCAA tournament bid. I had them as my last 4 in as an 11 seed in my bracketology that came out. So up next is Stanford, the Cardinal. They finished 9-9 last year in the Pac-12. They're a kind of a bubblish kind of team, but they did end up losing to Cal in the Pac-12 tournament on the last day of the regular season that Wednesday a few months ago. So I think that loss would have knocked them out of the tournament. But anyway, they could theoretically return their top 6 guys from that team, headlined by Oscar Da Silva, teir, Dejon Davis, Spencer Jones. Obviously a very good defensive team too. So teir, who's a freshman, he's in the NBA draft list. Kind of waiting to see what he will do. But if he returns, I think Stanford will be a top tier team. And they also bring in Teir Williams, a top 10 prospect. So I think he'll bring enough scoring to help lift this team into the top tier of the Pac-12. And that was really their key issue last year. Their offense really stalled out at times. But I think they'll be a top Pac-12 title contender. So up next we've got Wazoo, Washington State Cougars. This team, another one like Utah, I think they're 6-12, I want to say. But again, they did beat Oregon. I think they beat Arizona State too. And they're able to pick off a couple of those games against the top tier teams last year. So CJ Ellaby, who's an early NBA draft entrant. So another guy, I'm kind of waiting to see what he's going to do. But if they get him, plus Isaac Botton, they would return 4 of their top 5 scorers from last year. And Kyle Smith, who's their coach, I think they'll lead them to some improvement there. Kyle Smith obviously made San Francisco kind of respectable out of the WCC a couple of years ago. So I think Washington State will finish at D tier, just above Cal. So up next we've got the Colorado. Forgot their mascot for a second though. They return perhaps McKinley Wright, but again, he's another guy who could potentially leave for the NBA. But they also lose Tyler Bay too, and those two were their two best players. Their best player, Tyler Bay, who's gone. But they could return McKinley Wright. But if they do that, they're the top 6 scorers, plus adding a grad transfer from Tulsa and Gerard Horn. Plus, they got some recruiting guys coming in. They finished 3rd in the Pac-12, going to 247. So I think this team really finished off cold last year. I think they lost their last 5 games or 6 games, including a loss to Washington State that Wednesday. So again, I think based on that, they go into C tier. They're a team that I could see in the bubblish conversation in the NCAA tournament. I think I had them as an 11th seed. So I think that's where they finish along with Utah. So up next, Arizona State. This team really got hot at the end of February, and then lost a couple of games into March. Obviously a very good offensive team from last year, and I think they finished 3rd or 4th in the Pac-12, at a 3rd or 4th seed in the Pac-12 tournament there. So obviously, Remy Martin, who was her best player last year, another NBA draft entrant, but if he returns, it's going to be another team that you see improve. Remy Martin, Alonzo Verge, another key scoring piece for them. They also bring back Jalen House, Kamanu Lawrence, and Tayshaun Cherry, who are kind of some role guys for them this past season. But they did lose Romello White to the transfer portal. He went to Ole Miss. But as far as recruiting goes, they get Josh Christopher, who's a 5-star, top 20 prospect, going to 247. And a 4-star Marcus Bagley, who's also a top 30 prospect, according to 247 Sports. So I think really this team with their additions in this recruiting class, this recruiting cycle, I think this team should likely be a sort of top 20 team, Pac-12 title contender, and one of the co-favorites of S tier. So up next, we've got Oregon State. This is a team, I think they finished 7-11. I think one of 3 teams that finished 7-11 in the Pac-12. Now, again, like Washington State, Cal, Utah, they're able to pick off some of the games against the better teams, but they do lose their best player and 3rd best player in Trey Tinkle and Kyler Kelly, who are seniors. Also led the team in scoring, plus also rebounding too. So Ethan Thompson, another NBA draft entrant. So another wait and see guy. but they really need this this guy to come back if this team has any shot to be relevant. Because outside of him, I'm not sure who they'll go to. They'll really need some improvement out of their role guys from last year. And Shelley, Hollins, Lucas, Hunt. I think they need to contribute more, and not just the Ethan Thompson show. If this team wants to be relevant, but at this point, I got to give them the F tier, along with California. So up next is UCLA. The Bruins really got hot at the end of last season. Very hot. I think they lost like one or two games in the final month and a half of the season. Final few weeks there. Obviously, Chris Smith is their best player. Another one who is in the NBA draft and a wait and see guy. But I think if he comes back, I think this team should start preseason top 20. I think I had them as a 5 seed in my bracketology, and I think they'll be pretty good. Also, they return Jalen Hill, who's a leading rebounder, Tiger Campbell, Jaime Jaquez, Jaquez Jr., Cody Riley too. They did end up losing Prince Ali and Sharif O'Neal. I thought that was worth mentioning. And then also Daisha Nix, who's a recruit to the G League, but they also added Johnny Juzang from Kentucky, the transfer there. So with that, I think they got S tier. I think they continue their kind of a hot run there, and run atop the Pac-12 and a Pac-12 co-favorite in my opinion. So up next, Washington, one of the most disappointing teams in the country, not just the Pac-12, finishing dead last, behind Cal and Washington State, which was very surprising. But they do lose their 2 freshman guys from the season, but they do return some talented players in Quade Green, Marcus Nonsens, excuse my pronunciations here, and then also Naz Carter. So I think with some more experience from their inconsistent pieces could lead to more consistency there. So I think they improve. I think they're on the same tier with Washington State. I think they've got D tier. Alright, Southern Cal, USC, the Trojans there. A team that probably would have made the NCAA tournament. 8, 9, 10 seed, probably about in that range. They do lose a whole lot of players from that team, but they signed Evan Mobley, who's a top 3 prospect in this class according to 247, top 3 recruit there. And they also got his brother and his father there, father and assistant, brother as a player. And then Ethan Anderson back too, and a couple of transfers eligible as well, Taj Edie and Noah Bauman. But again, a lot of this team is gone, a lot of new faces for this Trojan team, but I think Evan Mobley will do just enough to get them into C tier and contend for a NCAA tournament berth. And the last team in Arizona, this is a team that really kind of tailed off at the end of the season. They lost a lot of road games and confusing games for the Arizona Wildcats there. And again, they lose a whole lot, just like Southern Cal. whole lot, but they kind of quietly stuck in a top 5 class. A lot of international recruits for them. Plus a lot of transfers there. James Akinjo from Georgetown, perhaps. But like I said, my bracketology, it could have a high ceiling, but I'm lower on this team based off what I saw from last season. Could be a little bit of a repeat, just with different faces there. They do get Brandon Williams back from injury. He played in the 2018-19 season, and another grad transfer in Terrell Brown. But I think it will be similar to this past season, where it could be ranked 1 week and then end up losing a game they shouldn't lose, and then end the season in C tier, be in line for still an NCAA tournament bid, but kind of a lower seed, maybe a 10 or 11 there. Alright, that finishes this tier list. Again, a little bit of a recap. Stanford, Arizona State, UCLA, the top S tier, Oregon as an A tier. No B tier for me right now. A little bit of a big gap between Oregon and these 4 teams right here. And I think we see some improvement out of the Washington schools, and Cal will remain at the bottom, and Oregon State probably move to the bottom as well. But I think this year should be pretty good for most of these Pac-12 teams. And in my latest bracketology, I had 8 teams, obviously these 4 and these 4. I think these 2 could perhaps make an NIT run, and don't have a whole lot of hope for these 2 to make an NIT, perhaps one of those other ones, like a CIT or something like that they could get into. But thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like if you want to, if you like this video. Subscribe for more content. I will be doing these sort of videos for the other conferences, other major conferences, and then not just major ones. Perhaps we'll get into the A10, CUSA, some of the mid-major leagues too. So thank you for watching. Again, like if you liked the video, subscribe for more content, and comment. Comment too. Do you disagree with me? Do you think Arizona should be higher? Do you think Oregon should be S tier? Do you think I'm too low on these two, any of these teams? Do you think I'm too high on Colorado, for instance? But please comment if you want to, and I should be in the comment section to respond if you want to talk about this Pac-12 video. Alright, thank you for watching.